or the bullet, freedom or death. We gas ourselves up, but we short on breath. Talking about we eating, but who we really cooking? Dreaming about greens, but ain't nobody looking. No land, no acres, no seeds in the ground. When the hunger hits, who's gonna be around? We starving every day, and it just ain't the food. Feeding the hood garbage, got 'em acting a fool. We flossing with rides, stunting with chains, but these bars we spitting just bring more pain. We guilty as hell, preaching all these lies, selling debt to the kids, and we acting surprised. We commercialize the pain, broadcast the grief, tell the youth to hustle, but hide the beef. We glorify the trap, invite them to the flames, just like Reagan brought the crack on planes. Back in the 80s when the streets got soaked, my people, my brothers, all got choked. Reagan said no trades, but we know the deal. He left us in the dirt, man, that shit was real. I was just a shorty watching it unfold, old enough to see how we got sold. War on drugs, but it was war on us. Cops on our necks, no love, no trust. They labeled us thugs, beast on the block, made us kiss the pavement while they cleaned our clock. Prison became business thanks to Reagan's game. Free labor is the truth in America's name. Slavery's dead, man. That's just a word. Read the 13th Amendment, it's still absurd. They lock us in cages, serving time for life. Double digits for wisdom, cutting sharp like a knife. I'm here to say, the chains in the air, it's time we break free, start showing we care. No more flexing for nothing, no more selling out. It's time to rise up, time to end the drought. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. You know how I always start this with independent music, and here is Black Power, and I'll be right back right after this.
Black power, 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 black power. Hard percussion, the discussion moves to politics. I'm pushing and I'm plush in this brown skin, she blushing. Panorama, Alabama, airing shots out cabanas as them red tails prevailing. Shit is nothing. Blue on black, it's the truth that you're ducking. While them pigs is Kaepernick or finger fucking. In our backs like our jersey numbers 4-2. One time, let a bad bitch be dumping. Hollow shells out the mac and cheese, nigga, please down on your knees as we drive by something. Something's gotta change. I know this shit is strange. That's the only way a revolution's coming. Black power, 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 black power. And she's empress, finer than the rest, dressed in all black. Swear this girl is amazing. Working hard as fuck, taking care of kids, educated for the black family she raising. Black halo queen, black afro sheen, black twist keeps her black man praising. My people paralyzed by them white lies. White guys, red hats, flags waving. Keep my peacemaker on my right side. Got it cocked back, left eye lazy. Shit is crazy, shit is artifice. One step on my porch, that's your sacrifice. No time for nice, no time for calm. The motherfuckers dropped the Philadelphia move bomb. The motherfuckers kill Fred Hampton with no shoes on. The motherfuckers don't deserve the breath I snooze on. Black power, 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 black power. Liquor paint a picture. If I can't live with ya, then I gotta leave, gotta write my own scripture. Black holy land, black caravan, earth, wind, and weed smoke choking on the Canaban. We know the court's corrupt, we know police corrupt. We know it's only so much more before we all erupt. We gotta strategize, we gotta come together. We gotta figure out a path before we're lost forever. In a fucking maze, we're in a fucking broken days, the last days, but nobody's coming down to save ya. We gotta save ourselves, we got a migration, fill up these southern states to start our black nation. A black family picnic, a black barbecue, where nobody leaves, nobody argues. I know it's hard to do, I know it's very scary, but it must be done, this shit is necessary. Black power, 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 black.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I wanted to start this off this morning talking about the Minnesota Promise Act, and some more stuff came out of there, and you had the legislative auditor, I think her name is Judy Randall, came out and said that this program has caught her attention because there isn't enough discrepancies that she had seen in the investigative report, that there was enough to see that she needed to do something. So I wanted people to watch this and tell me, your thoughts, or, is this something that we need to do? Is this something that, needs to happen? We know that there's fraud in Minnesota, and there's plenty of it. It doesn't matter what program it is. It doesn't matter what social justice organization, any of that. We know that there's been billions in fraud. I know Tim Walz and them want to say it was millions, but we know just from Feeding Our Future that was at least $500 million. I know they want to say 250, but people forget the first numbers that came out. When they were investigating that first, it was like 444. And now they drop it down to 250, because in my eyes, and I think in a lot of Minnesotans, they haven't really prosecuted or even held people accountable, because to be honest, nobody's been really held accountable that is elected, and we elect these people. This went on during Governor Walz, Keith Ellison, and yet these people are still the governor and attorney general. So let me get into this, and let me be quiet.
Tonight, a 5 Investigates report has state lawmakers pressing for answers about a multi-million-dollar program.
And it is all about your taxpayer dollars. Investigative reporter Ryan Raich broke this story Monday and is here now with another update for us.
Yeah, I think some state lawmakers clearly want changes to this program that is still actively paying out money. It's intended for small businesses, but after our investigation, critics argue there are no tools in place to ensure the money is going where it's supposed to.
I can't tell you that this is an effective use of dollars.
Frustration at the state capitol.
This was not vetted properly 2 years ago.
The State House Committee tackled the nearly $100 million Minnesota Promise Act that sends up to $50,000 to small businesses that qualify. But this week, 5 Investigates uncovered several questionable recipients, including this home health care company that received nearly the maximum grant, despite having its license revoked before it even applied.
In regards to the B&M Vital Home Care, which KSTP reported on as well.
The Department of Employment and Economic Development on the hot seat.
During that time frame, the business appealed. And during the appeal timeline, apparently the business continued to operate.
Deed's main partner, the Neighborhood Development Center, handles most of the vetting. They previously declined our interview requests, but today I asked one of the men in charge how that healthcare company was approved.
We are confident in our process that at the time of application, they met the criteria, eligibility criteria.
Are you guys doing site visits to make sure these businesses are in operation?
That is not a charge that we've been given by Deed. To do that, over thousands of applications.
They should absolutely be required to pay that money back.
Some lawmakers are now demanding to see if businesses use the money the way they said they would. The program doesn't require businesses to report back, but Deed says it can and will do random audits.
I'm just shocked by this. If the goal was to get this out to help people, I'm really seeing that government has failed in this regard, in addition to the concerns that we have about fraud and waste.
Is there going to be some changes to this legislation?
There has to be changes. And I think for me as a chair of this, while we're in session now, the Promise Act has to be relooked at. We need to relook at this program as a whole.
The Neighborhood Development Center and the other partner organizations said today they flagged up to 60 suspicious and possibly fraudulent applications. Those businesses were not approved, and NDC touted this as their process working. Now, some lawmakers were upset that DEED has not turned any of those over to police. DEED tells me tonight they do have a process in place on when to go to the legal authorities, and the state is working and will release a report on this program yet this month. So stay tuned.
Something to follow all session.
That's crazy. And if people aren't watching what's going on in this session, people need to pay attention. There was something that was talked about this morning, and it was a great conversation. I shouldn't even say it was great, but Jim Nash held his ground, and I think really everybody in Minnesota on the Republican side needs to do that. I don't think we've seen so much go on from the trifecta when it came down to the fraud, is that people need to stand up. People need to hold not only Walz, but Keith Ellison accountable. These are elected officials who were put in control of taxpayer dollars that were supposed to help the people that were in areas that were impoverished. Those were areas that were supposed to help feed kids, to put into nursing. I'm not the kids, but there was all kinds of other frauds. And if you even look at it, there was something that came out yesterday that the lady from the Feeding Our Future, the 79th one, she got the most money last year in 2025 from daycares. And it's like, it was like over $14 million. And it's like, damn, are you serious? Like, what do we have to do to be able to shut this shit down? Because it's still going on today. They're in legislative hearings arguing. And the craziest part about it all, these are things that there shouldn't be no arguments about. Every legislative, doesn't matter if it's a senator, doesn't matter if it's a representative, they should all want to get out the fraud. And that's why even me, I pressured I shouldn't say pressure, but I emailed my mayor here in Grand Meadow, because it's crazy how you have towns like Spring Valley or like Stewartville or even, Jackson and towards that way or whatever, towards the South Dakota border. And why are we being quiet? Because that affects us. That affects us. How much of a surplus will we have if there wasn't so much fraud? I want people to be really honest, right? Because they say that it hasn't really affected us on a large scale. Well, again, I'm gonna say that's a lie. So yesterday, Ellison, Walz, and some pastor, reverend from St. Paul were testifying in Congress in Washington, D.C. And here is Tom Emmer. Everybody know that he's a Minnesota rep. He's a Republican. But he was really calling out Walz yesterday and Ellison. I'm saying that they need to be accountable. There was a lot of things that went on with fraudsters coming to meet with Keith Ellison, them even doing lawsuits. And then you would have Walz or even Keith Ellison say it's not their faults. They did what they were supposed to do. Well, no, you allow things to go on. And then because you were scared to be called homophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, racist, all that shit. That's what y'all were scared of. Instead of actually calling people out and holding them accountable and responsible, because this is why our communities are like this. This is why our communities are suffering. And we're still to this day in 2026 are still giving nonprofits. They make little posts begging for money. But what are you begging for money when your CEO makes damn near $1 million, 750? So I don't even get that. Why are we begging cities, constituents, residents to take care of people when really, honestly, it's just to pay your salaries? to pay the employees. It's not about, that's what I really, really want people to know is how much of them donations that you give to nonprofits when it comes to like feeding kids or food shelves, boys and girls clubs. Because something blew my mind yesterday when, well, I shouldn't say it was yesterday, but I think it was Tuesday. Somebody had made a post in, I think it was either Red Wing Convo or Rochester, and spotted in Rochester, but they were talking about how people should support the Girl Scouts even more now because they allow transgender girls. And I was like, wait, what? Like, come on, man. Are we serious? Are we serious? So for me, I couldn't buy no Girl Scout cookies. I don't support that shit. I don't support that. You can be who you want to be, but when we're allowing boys to dress up like girls and then letting them be Girl Scouts, come on, man. So when I dressed up as like G.I. Joes or Casper the Ghost on Halloween, I wasn't trying to do that every motherfucking day. But yet we allow people and even take the rights from parents, the decision-making from parents at a young age so that they can indoctrinate and take over the kids, and the parents don't have no say because they do. The government does. If we don't believe in something that our kids maybe they want to be about, man, this is tough because this transgender thing really bothers me. I shouldn't even say it bothers me because maybe that's the wrong word to use, but not everybody's okay with that. So the fact that how we parent our kids maybe not be the same way that somebody that really should be a parent instead of a friend to their kids and call them out and hold them accountable. It's not what we're seeing. That's not what we're seeing. And we're allowing schools, I think it's even 13 now where you can't even get the information on your kid if they're over the age of 13 and without your kid's consent. But yet they can't get no tattoo at 18 or not as 18 as a juvenile. They need a parent's permission to go on a field trip, but we don't need the parents' permission to cut off the balls. That to me is crazy. That to me, and I know people are like, you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do. When it comes down to gender affirming care. So the number one hospital for that is right in Minneapolis at Children's Hospital. I know in the last couple months, since Trump has been president, they really kind of steered away from that because our federal government does. But let me quit blabbling and let's get into Tom Emmer when he goes yesterday at the congressional hearing.
Chair now recognizes our Majority Whip, Representative Emmer from Minnesota.
Thank you, Chairman Comer, and actually thank you, Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison, for appearing before the committee today. Gentlemen, let's see if we can agree on at least one thing today. Today's hearing is titled Oversight of Fraud and Misuse of Federal Funds in Minnesota. Can we agree that this fraud is a serious thing, Governor Walz? Yes or no? Can we agree on that?
Yes, any fraud is serious.
Thank you. Because it's interesting that you and I agree that it's a serious thing, considering the man sitting next to you, your Attorney General Keith Ellison, just 2 months ago said, quote, "This is a political matter. This is not a serious thing," end quote. Attorney General Ellison, is there an organized crime ring operating in Minnesota? I'll answer for you, sir. Governor Walz believes there is an active crime ring in our state. In October, the governor said, quote, "We've got an organized crime ring in Minnesota. I think it's been going on for years." Moving on, Mr. Ellison, I, along with millions of Americans, have grave concerns over your alleged relationships with Somali fraudsters who have since been charged and convicted of federal crimes. I'm sure you are aware that over 90% of the defendants charged in the Feeding Our Future fraud case are of Somali descent. In fact, you have personal knowledge of these people. There's a 54-minute audio tape of your meeting with these criminals in December of 2021. And during your meeting, they complained to you about increased scrutiny of their nonprofits, and you told them, quote, "Of course I'm here to help," end quote. It's on the internet. Anyone can listen to you say that. Since then, you claim you were not aware of their crimes in the $250 million Feeding Our Future scheme, the largest pandemic fraud case in the nation. But just weeks after your December 2021 meeting, the FBI executed search warrants that you never would have requested in the Feeding Our Future fraud investigation. Now let's fast forward to September of 2022, 10 months after you met with the Somali fraudsters. Your office issued a press release stating, quote, "Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and his office have been deeply involved for 2 years in holding Feeding Our Future accountable," end quote. So according to your office, sir, you have been deeply involved in the Feeding Our Future case since September of 2020. That actually sounds like you are saying that at the time of your infamous meeting with the Somali fraudsters, you were already aware of the allegations of fraud. When you had this meeting in December 2021, did you know, sir, about the long-running FBI investigation into Feeding Our Future? Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Representative Emmer.
Reclaiming my time. When did you personally become aware of the FBI investigation? That's all I'm asking.
Representative Emmer, as you know, I have addressed this issue many times.
All right. Reclaiming my time. In that same meeting with the fraudsters, Mr. Attorney General, you took aim at the Minnesota Department of Education. You stated that the Minnesota Department of Education had fought the nonprofit in very disgusting ways, in a very racist, xenophobic, and Islamophobic manner. You actually asked for the names of all these folks who are just hung up and offered to call the Minnesota Department of Education to, quote, demand some explanations. We now know that when you made these comments, the Biden DOJ was working with the Minnesota Department of Education and that their work exposed the massive fraud ring. Pretty bad look for you, sir. Either you were oblivious to what was going on under your nose, or worse, you were trying to obstruct the work of the Minnesota Department of Education. So I can see the time is getting short. Mr. Chairman, we are left with two questions. One, what did Governor Walz and Keith Ellison know about the fraud? And two, when did they actually know it? I would suggest that if they do not give direct and truthful answers to both these questions at this hearing, then they both need to be put under oath in a deposition. This is a serious thing, Mr. Attorney General. You are the only one who thinks protecting taxpayer dollars is political. Mr. Ellison, my concern is that you actively obstructed this investigation in exchange for campaign donations, a quid pro quo. If these concerns are proven to be true, you should be disbarred and you should go to jail.
Which I believe that too. And here's what I want to point out, because Walz did claim that he stopped payments or that the courts allowed it. Well, that's not true, right? Because the record is clear, is that the judge in that case, Guthman, never ordered Minnesota Department of Education to resume payments to Feeding Our Future ever. Yet on September 22nd, 2022, Tim Walz claimed the court forced payments to continue. That's false. MDE resumed payments voluntarily, not by order. So that's what I really want people to remember, because these elected officials lie. And we allow them to lie because we don't hold them accountable. Neither does, I had to hold my goddamn paper, or I shouldn't even say paper, but local station down here, KTTC, channel, whatever, the NBC shit. Because they're talking about they've done this. No, you haven't. You haven't covered the ties into the Brava Cafe. There has been over $20 million that went to that fucking restaurant. So you mean to tell me that nobody else in Rochester but the 3 family members benefited? You a motherfucking lie. I'm going to be honest, KTTC, you haven't. You haven't. Even when it comes down to I'm not trying to start no race wars or anything like that, right? But I'm sitting here and I want us to be truthful. Because we have things as blacks, we have things as Somalians, Ethiopians, Asians, Latinos. Just because they're from Africa, stop calling them black. They have their own ethnicity. They have their own ethnicity. And I don't understand that. So why I have to hold them accountable. That's like they want people to get mad. Oh, when it came down to the Shiloh Hendricks, everybody thinks that's a little black boy. No, that's not. That's a Somalian kid who y'all told us had autism. We don't even know if that's the truth. Because how much autism fraud happened in Minnesota? Millions. You don't have people coming out. This is the one thing that I don't understand, right? If it's hurting people so bad, why don't you hear from them people? If it's hurting them so bad, when it comes down to this undocumented citizens, whatever the fuck you want to call them, but yet we don't do nothing for the own citizens in our own state who are behind bars and innocent. And innocent. But we allowed like lawyers like Keith Ellison. He's our attorney general. When is this man going to answer for Timothy Magruder? Or even what about this shit that went off with Officer Hoff? Nobody wants to talk about how Jerry McAfee and them and Keith Ellison and a news station rode to Chicago to go get Pepe. Come on, man. You guys are acting like y'all are gullible or new to this shit. They act like they're new to this. That's like the whole thing when I say about, back in 2023 when they had the trifecta, over $1.1 billion was given out in direct appropriations to nonprofits. 1.1 billion. That's not me just saying a number figure. That's the motherfucking media. That's the media. So you mean to tell me that over $1.1 billion went to take care of people that were in need in Minnesota? Is Minnesota better? I'm going to say it again. Is Minnesota better? Because we're not. We're not anywhere near where I believe that we should be, because growing up, Minneapolis was bad. I'm not going to say that it was good, but it was a lot of good memories. But I'm not going to say and sit there and say that the conditions were the best, because they weren't. We had our own problems, but we came together as a community. We came together as a community. And the difference that I see now is that you have nonprofit leaders and churches who don't even live in those areas, try to bring people together. But it doesn't work because you don't live in that community. You only try to pastor or try to be a leader for that community, but you don't live in that community. So when things are getting worse, you demand more money. But money hasn't changed shit. You know what's crazy? This week in Minneapolis City Council, Chief O'Hara said Minneapolis PD spent $5.2 million. $5.2 million just in January for Operation Metro Surge, for overtime. So you tell me that we don't have a problem. Because that $5.2 million didn't protect people. People were abused. And to be honest, that's just because MPD doesn't want to work with the federal government when it comes to immigration control, because they want to make it political, not a right or wrong issue. They want to make it a political issue. So let's get into this one. You're going to see, I think this is Brian Donald. Yeah, Byron Donald's a little black dude. Well, he actually ain't black. He's Jamaican and Panamanian.
Mr. Donalds from Florida.
Thank you, Chairman. Governor Walz, when did you first receive notice of potential fraud in Minnesota's social services programs?
Social service programs in general. We knew that there was issues with the CCAP program as early as 2012, and my first days in office, we started taking action.
But as governor, when were you first notified?
Before I took office.
All right, Governor Walz, former Department of Human Services Commissioner Tony Laurie testified that you were aware in early 2019 of fraud in 2 Department of Human Services administered programs. Is this statement accurate?
Not that I recall. I'm not sure what he's speaking about.
You don't remember this meeting or this notification?
No, not specifically, I don't.
In March of 2019, your Office of Legal Affairs reported $5 to $6 million in alleged child care assistance program fraud. In April 2019, it was also reported that the Department of Human Services lacked proper integrity controls to control fraud. Were you aware of these reports?
Not specific reports, but because of that, my office, we put forward actions to address them, starting in 2019.
Is it correct that your administration was aware of the Feeding Our Future fraud as early as of May of 2020, based upon regular discussions about program irregularities?
I believe that's correct with the agency, the Department of Education, and then going back to USDA.
I'm gonna go back. Was your office notified of these fraud allegations?
Not me specifically, that they're handled internally in the administration. It happens every day.
Who was notified, Governor Walz?
The agencies do their work, the commissioners, and then if someone in my office was notified, they let me know. As governor, I make, 50 decisions a day. I said I did this job for 12 years. I make more decisions in a day.
Governor Walz.
So someone was maybe notified, but the agencies are the ones that take the action.
May I ask the next question? We have it under sworn testimony in the Oversight Committee that your former chief of staff was notified directly by these various commissioners about the fraud in Minnesota.
That could be correct.
So are you saying that your chief of staff didn't notify you?
I'm saying I don't recall whether he did at that time or not, but we took action. So I'm assuming when we put our budgets together based on that, we put a package together for that legislative session.
Let's talk about budgets, Governor Walz. Feeding Our Future went from $307,000 in 2018 to $199 million in 2021. Are you aware of this increase in budgetary costs from Feeding Our Future?
Not specifically, but I know it increased during the pandemic.
The Housing Stabilization Services went from $27 million in 2021 to $105 million in 2024. Are you aware of this increase, Governor Walz?
Not specifically, but I know it increased.
Autism centers went from $24 million in 2019 to $342 million in 2024. Are you aware of that?
Not specifically again, but yes, we know the budget's increased.
Integrated community supports went from $4.6 million in 2021 to $170 million in 2024. Are you aware of that?
Again, not specifically on the numbers, but it's the budget.
Governor Walz, you have to submit a budget to your legislature every single year, like every governor has to do. If you're not aware of these increases, what was your office
Everyone
doing?
is balanced. My budget is about $72 billion. It includes 23 agencies.
Florida's budget's $115 billion, sir. But what were you doing if you're seeing program increases like this amid allegations of fraud in your state?
Action was being taken on these starting back in 2019. If it's CCAP.
Can you describe the action that was taken in 2019?
Sure. In 2019, I'll go to the first things that we did on child care assistance. We lowered the standards on proof of administrative fraud disqualification.
Whoa, you lowered the standards?
We lowered the standards for proof of administrative fraud. The standards where we had to prove it were so high it was impossible to try and do it. So we lowered what it took to show that fraud was happening.
And what did you do with the results of lowering the standards to prove fraud? What did you do?
We put 79 people in prison and
But Governor Walz, the fraud continued to increase. It increased under your tenure. Do you acknowledge that?
Did the numbers increase? Yes. And I tell you, when you catch people and prosecute them, it shows up at the fraud increase. I would tell you, Congressman, just because you're not hearing about fraud doesn't mean it's not happening.
I got 50 seconds, Governor, and I don't want to get into a fight with you, but let me move quickly to the Lieutenant Governor. Peggy Flanagan's your Lieutenant Governor, is that correct?
That is correct.
Does the Lieutenant Governor go on the ticket with you, or are they elected by themselves on a ballot in the state of Minnesota?
It's on a ticket.
It's on a ticket. Peggy Flanagan essentially works for you.
She has an independent office. She's a constitutional officer. She's on the ticket, but she is independent as a constitutional officer.
You could ask for her resignation at any time. Is that correct? That's typically how it works with lieutenant governors.
Yeah, but she's a constitutional officer. I don't believe that's happened in Minnesota.
Peggy Flanagan is, there are accusations that she was intimidating whistleblowers. There was a meeting on April 12th of 2024, where she went on stage and publicly denounced whistleblowers in the state of Minnesota, calling them losers in their mother's basements. Is this the type of treatment that your administration allows for whistleblowers in Minnesota?
I'm not familiar with
Are you aware of any intimidation of whistleblowers in the state of Minnesota? There are 30 whistleblowers who have given letters to this committee on the record saying that they have been subject to intimidation by your administration because they were trying to stop the fraud in Minnesota.
I encourage them to go to the OLA and the independent sources in Minnesota that are
the
open to do
OLA.
that.
You're the governor.
No, the OLA is the independent.
But sir,
Office of
you're the
Legislative
governor.
Auditor.
Why don't you take responsibility for what's going on in your state?
We do take responsibility. None of those people, I'm telling you, I have no knowledge.
But you
of
lost
coming
billions of dollars of American taxpayer money in the process, Governor Walz.
We prosecuted these people, Congressman. I think Florida has fraud.
I would argue that the prosecutions have largely come from the federal offices
That's
as
not how
opposed to the
this
state
works.
offices.
You know that we refer
What
them
do you
to
mean
them
that's not how it works? That's exactly how it
They're
works.
partners. They partner together. They're BCA.
Is the Attorney General allowed to investigate fraud and prosecute fraud in the state of Minnesota without the Department of Justice federally? Are you allowed to do that, Attorney General Ellison?
Yes, and we do prosecute Medicaid. Yes, and we do prosecute Medicaid fraud all the time. We've prosecuted over 300 people.
Apparently not enough, because
what's crazy is when you look at who have been charged for the fraud, it's been because of the feds, not because of our local. And even when you look in Minneapolis, when they try to do the Medicaid, right, you had the judge overturn a jury. A jury found the person guilty, but a judge found it that he felt like, or she felt like, I don't know if it was a man or woman, but they felt like there wasn't circumstantial evidence. And to me, so that's kind of crazy. And that's how, if you really look at it, that's how Minneapolis is. That's how the Twin City is. There's enough people out there doing it that they all think that it's right. They all think that it's right. You just heard Governor Walz that back in 2019, they had to lower the standards to look at fraud when it came to daycares because so many people were doing it. And it was, the standards had, this is the crazy part that I never understood, right? Is reading Tim O'Malley's report, the program integrity guy or whatever. He just did a report back in, I think it was January, February. And this is going back on 50 years. 50 years. 50 years. And we're not even, I won't even say we're anywhere closer to stopping it, to make sure that it's shut down. Because there's so many people. We have literally, what I can't understand, and I'm going to show you this later, is, or actually I just showed it to you before, earlier when I started the show, is about the Minnesota Promise Act. Bobby Champion said in the interview that he was confident that there was no fraud. But he lied to the people over and over and over again, even when it came to the Ethics Commission. When the ethics complaint came out last year, which he should have been held accountable. So we have a crook, a crackhead. This is why I don't fuck with Mike Lindell either. It's not just because he was a crackhead and now he's sober. There's also behavioral shit that went with it. And that nigga still shows behaviors of what a crackhead would do. And to me, you know what's crazy is that's why I think a lot of our laws are fucked up, is because we have so many former crackheads. And it amazes me how people in Minnesota hate certain kind of crimes or certain people when they got certain backgrounds. But let them be Democrat. You niggas love them. That's why we're in this shit. It's because too many motherfuckers wanted to be buddy-buddy and not call each other out and make sure that other people are accountable. Because you didn't care. That's why in Rochester, what really saddens me, right? And you don't even know what black is in Rochester because they call everybody down there black. Everybody, doesn't matter if they're Somalian, doesn't matter if they're Nigerian, Jamaican, they're black. And to me, that's crazy because that's not how it goes. We all have different journeys. Their journey just started within the last 30 years. My family been here the whole 250. And we started off as slaves. My family, you know what's crazy to me is why I get so frustrated is because you have these people, I don't have nothing against Somalian, Nigerians, Ethiopian, Jamaican. I don't got nothing against them, right? But I'm tired of how they're supposed to be blended in with us. And yet, when we go to the state legislature and you look at the black plans, and especially when it came to the Minnesota Safe Streets, over $30 million went to that program. 30 million. 30 million. A Mother's Love got 3. 21 Day and Jerry McAfee got 3. Y'all don't want to talk about that shit. That's how I know y'all niggas don't really want justice in Minnesota. You don't. You don't want justice because people don't hold them accountable or don't even hold them responsible, because I'm going to tell you like this. We have losses over in Minneapolis because of our community leaders, because they lie to the public and say that they're doing this when they're not. They hand out expired juice and cookies. Come on, man. We got to do better, and we got to do better now. So here is the interaction between Walz and Ellison, and this is the person questioning them is Jim Jordan.
Recognizes the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Mr. Jordan from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor, why didn't you tell the truth? Why didn't you just tell the truth about the Feeding Our Future program? This program, my understanding, received $3 million the first year. Within a couple years was getting $200 million of taxpayer money. Whistleblowers raised concerns. As the chairman said, auditors raised concerns. Everybody raised concerns. March 30th, 2021, the payments are stopped. And a little over a month later, the payments are restarted. Why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments?
Well, Chairman, we did tell you. And Feeding Our Future grew because of the pandemic. And
I didn't ask that question. I said, why didn't you tell the truth about why you restarted the payments? The payments stopped because there were concerns, obviously. We wouldn't stop the payments. Then they're restarted a month later. What was the reason for restarting the payments?
My understanding was the agency believed that the court had required them to make those payments.
And that was false, wasn't it? You repeated that. You said that, didn't you? You said that's why the reason. You said the reason you restarted is because the court ordered you to do so. Is that right?
I don't believe that is settled yet, to the best of my knowledge.
Well, I think it is, because the court did something that I just don't. I don't know if I've ever seen it. They issued a statement saying you were wrong in what you were saying. This is from the court. It says, Feeding Our Future versus Minnesota Department of Education, correcting reports and statements by Governor Tim Walz concerning orders issued by the court. Here's what the judge says. Governor Tim Walz told the media that the Minnesota Department of Education attempted in payments to FOF because of possible fraud, but that Judge Guthman ordered payments to continue in April 2021. Next sentence. That is false. So you said something that wasn't true. He further states this, Judge Guthman, the court says this, Judge Guthman never ordered the Department of Education to resume payments to Feeding Our Future in April 2021 or at any other time. So I want to know, why didn't you tell the truth?
Congressman, the attorneys at the Department of Education interpreted that differently. Both of those judges are no longer on the bench, and I think that interpretation.
The very first sentence. The first 7 words. This is not some unnamed source talking to the New York Times. This is not some anonymous source talking to whatever your Minnesota Star Tribune or whatever your paper is. This is the court speaking. First sentence, first 7 words. Due to inaccurate statements by the governor, Ramsey County District Court judge has issued and authorized this following news release. That's pretty straightforward. So the court's lying?
I can't tell you, Congressman, but the interpretation
somebody's lying. Somebody's lying, because you can't say the court ordered you to restart the payments, and then the court says we didn't order you to restart the payments. So either you're lying or the court's lying. And I'm just asking you, which one is it?
I just simply know what the attorneys at the agency believed, that it was a misinterpretation. And I would note that those payments.
Could it be you were trying to hide behind the court, Governor? Could that maybe be the reason why you issued the statements you did and why the court had to do something you never see done before? They issue a press statement saying you're wrong. The governor is wrong. His statement is, their words, not mine, false. Could that be the reason?
That was not the interpretation of the attorneys. And you know, court work, you can appeal those, Congressman, as you well know. I'm sure
Is it all about politics, Governor?
No, it's about taking care of our people, which Minnesota does better than anyone else.
$3 million. The behavioral intervention program went from $3 million to $400 million in 5 years. The housing stabilization went from $2.6 million to $104 million. The integrated community supports went from $4.6 million to $170 million in 3 years. And this is unbelievable what's happening, and you're trying to hide behind some pretend court order, some court order that didn't exist. Governor, who's Casey Magan?
I don't know who Casey Magan is.
Well, I'll tell you. Mr. Magan is a Somali American and a fraud investigator in the guy beside you's office, in the Attorney General's office. And here's what he said. There was a perception that forcefully tackling this issue might cause political backlash among the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc. Did that have anything to do with this whole fraud scheme that went on in your state, Governor?
It did not, Congressman.
It did not. So you're saying Mr. Casey Magan is lying too?
I'm not.
You're the only one telling the truth in the whole state. Mr. Magan, who's a fraud investigator at the Attorney General's office, says it's politics. The court said
I couldn't speak for Mr. Magan. You asked me a question.
I know. I'm asking.
And I said no when you asked me the question.
I'm saying Casey Magan said just the opposite.
I don't know.
So the court's wrong and Casey Magan's wrong. You're the only guy right. How many people have been indicted in your state right now? Do you know, Governor?
I don't have those numbers with me.
You don't? 98 people have been indicted. Do you happen to know how many are Somali American?
I don't. We don't investigate or prosecute people based on ethnicity, religion.
Neither do I. We shouldn't do that. But Mr. Magan is a Somali American who just said that the court, one of the concerns was this is a core voting bloc. And I just want to know if you know how many of the 98 people who have been indicted in your state are Somali.
I don't. Their ethnicity is not my concern.
85% of the people indicted were Somali American in key voting bloc. And I think that's what drove this whole thing.
That's interesting. So there was one more that I wanted people to see, and that was the interaction between Nancy Mace, because I did think this was kind of funny when I was watching it yesterday. And I also did find out, I shouldn't say I found out, but you had congressmen, congresswomen, whatever, from all over America trying to hold him accountable. And we couldn't even do that with their own representatives. And that's where, I shouldn't even say it frustrates me or whatever, right? But it disheartens me is because back in 2022, I met with Republicans. Talking about oversight and fraud in the Black community. Nothing about no Somalians. None. All I talked about is nonprofits and Black churches. And we showed the DBAs. We showed exactly how these motherfuckers were doing it. And they want to spotlight the Somalis. So that just shows me that they're not serious about the fraud. You're not serious about it because it's more of a political point for you. Because here's the one thing that I really want people to understand, right? Is people will tell me, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to subpoena power. Yes, I do. That power sharing agreement that Lisa DeMuth signed back in 2025 made sure that there was no subpoena power. Because people don't understand what subpoena power can do. See, now this is why I say that Fraud and Waste Committee is more of a performative action than actually an action with teeth, because there is no teeth in that. That they had to people. This is the thing of it is, if they can't make people come in there and speak. It's all voluntarily. And I'm going to say this, you're not going to get people voluntarily to bite the hand that was feeding them. You're going to have to threaten people. I won't even say threaten. You're going to have to make it where they'll be accountable. They'll be looking at 10, 20 years in prison. Instead of, that's what's going to make niggas talk. You think any of them white people are going to talk about, especially when you put some decades in front of them? Some decade, man, them motherfuckers are going to sing. They're going to sing, because I'll tell you like this, none of them are made for prison. None of them. So that's why when a lot of this shit comes out, they're quiet. They're quiet. And why is that? Because they already know that they've done wrong. So here you are with Nancy Mace.
Recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for being here today. Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison, you have presided over one of the worst government fraud scandals in American history. This was money intended to feed hungry children, help kids with autism, provide food and shelter and health care to the needy, and more. You both allowed billions in these American taxpayer dollars to be pillaged and plundered by Somali pirates. You knew this was happening, you chose to do nothing about it, and in some cases, you even enabled it. Attorney General Ellison, you even profited from this fraud by taking campaign donations from these Somalians after pledging to help quash the investigation into them. I find your behavior despicable. My questions this morning, my first go to Governor Walz, and I hope you learned some lessons from your last hearing with me on the Oversight Committee. Have you learned anything since
I did,
then?
that if I didn't speak up, 2 of my people would be dead, Congresswoman, and I warned you.
Okay, Governor Walz, what is a woman? Have you learned that lesson? Do you know what a woman is?
I'm the governor of Minnesota, Congresswoman.
You know what a
I'm not
woman
here
is.
to be your prop for your obsession.
So
I
if you
taught middle
can't
school your
define what a
obsession.
woman is, you certainly can't define what fraud is. If you can't even define what a woman is, you can't define fraud. How much money was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2017, Governor?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, Congresswoman.
Did you prepare for this hearing today? Did you do any preparation
I take
for this hearing
Congress
today?
seriously.
And you've seen the numbers about autism fraud in Minnesota. So we're going to do some Minnesota math with you today, okay? Are you ready? How much money was spent on 2017 for autism in Minnesota? How much?
I don't know. I wasn't the governor.
Okay. Did you not just say that you prepared for this hearing today? $1 million, okay? A quick Google search or using your AI could tell you $1 million was spent. How much money was spent on autism in Minnesota in 2024?
I don't have the number in front of me. As
Were you governor in 2024?
I was, but I'm not the
Okay,
head
so
of
your
HHS.
excuse before that you didn't know what 2017 autism numbers were because you were not governor, and today you can't answer the numbers about 2024 as governor, and you still said you prepared for this hearing today. It's unbelievable. $343 million was spent in 2024. What percent increase is that from 1 million to 343 million? What percentage increase is that?
I'm not here to be your prop. Go ahead and tell me.
Well, are you governor of Minnesota or not?
Yes, I am. I'm
Okay,
not.
well, when
I'm
I'm
not a
governor
prop
of
for a
South
member of
Carolina,
Congress.
you can sure as hell bet that I'm going to know the math. The math is 34,200% increase, an increase of 343 times what it was in this time period. Do you know the number of children in Minnesota?
I know that Minnesota ranked as a top 3 state for children
What is the
in the
total
last year.
population in Minnesota?
5.7 million.
Okay. What is the total population of children in Minnesota?
I don't have the number in front of me right
Are
now.
you governor of Minnesota?
I know 400,000 were cut out of health care last
Okay,
week by
that's
the
not-
actions you made.
Are you governor of Minnesota?
I am.
And you don't know the number of children
I
residing
don't
in
have the
Minnesota?
specific number. It's 5.7 million.
That's your total
What is your age?
population.
What is the age? 0 to 5? 0 to 19?
You have approximately 1.2 million children in Minnesota.
What
I'm not
age?
even governor of South Carolina. Our population in South Carolina is 5.5 million. We have approximately 1.1 million children under the age of 18 in my home state of South Carolina, okay? As governor, I expect you to know this information. Thank God you're not Vice President of the United States. Do you know approximately how many children in Minnesota are autistic or on the spectrum?
No, I don't have that number.
Okay, well, if you take the CDC's roughly 1 in 36 kids are on the spectrum, we're talking about approximately 33,000 kids. In South Carolina, it's about 31,000 or so. What is, do you know what this is per child, spending-wise, in the fraud for autistic kids in Minnesota?
Again, I'm not here to be your prop. Go ahead and tell us.
This isn't, is doing Minnesota math a prop? This is math. We're talking about fraud.
Minnesota ranks at the top. Where does South Carolina rank?
We're talking about money
Where do
That
South
was
Carolina
supposed
children
to-
rank
this
on
is-
healthiness?
These are my questions for you. It doesn't go the other way around unless we're debating on the debate stage. And we're not.
If you're asking
This
questions
is-
about being governor,
I'm
it does.
asking you
When you're
questions
governor, you
about
can
being
come and
governor
tell
of
me.
Minnesota, which you can't answer. This is basic math. And you can't even answer.
not
Do you
here to
even
be your
care
prop.
about kids in Minnesota?
They rank near
Do
the
you
top
care?
in every category. My children are
Do you
fed. My
care about
children are
autistic
housed. My
children
children have
getting
health
the
care.
services they need in
My
Minnesota?
children have the best
Good or
schools.
you don't, Mr.
So, just so people know, there is actually 1.3 million people under the ages of 17. From a baby to 17, we have over 1.3 million people. I just wanted to put that out there. I know that came up when Nancy Mason, whatever. What I want to talk about now, I want to still talk about fraud, but I want to, what I was talking about earlier when I said that the last person that was charged in the Feeding Our Future also got the most funds for daycare in 2025. So that for childcare. So I want to show people this because it's not, I'm just not lying. The news isn't lying. There's people in the community. We've gone over daycare frauds for years, and it hasn't stopped. And it hasn't stopped. So when is it going to finally stop? Because we're penalizing daycares that actually do the work, and then we're just giving out funds to people that actually don't do the work. So I don't get that.
We have reported before about Feeding Our Future fraud suspects billing the state for other reimbursement programs. Ever since the 79th defendant was charged, Lou Ragoose has been collecting data on Fahima Mahmoud's connections. He joins us now with more. Lou?
Julie, Fahima Mahmoud's daycare received more than $1 million from Feeding Our Future. That's what she has been charged with. But she also received an astounding amount of child care assistance program funds. She ran an autism center and adult daycares. At the former Future Leaders Early Learning Center at 36th and Chicago Avenue in Minneapolis, the signage is strewn in the playground. But last year, there was no daycare in the entire state of Minnesota that received as much Child Care Assistance Program or CCAP money as Future Leaders, $3.7 million, according to state data collected by Care 11, totaling $10.2 million over the last 4 years. Its owner, Fahima Mahmoud, faces a federal wire fraud charge after claiming to serve meals to 1,000 children a day during the pandemic at Future Leaders, collecting more than $1 million alleged fraudulent dollars for that. And public records show Mahmoud has received even more taxpayer money. This autism center at 38th Street and Oakland Avenue was incorporated by Mahmoud in 2020. At first called Safe Nursing Home, she wrote, "I want to change Safe Nursing Home to Minneapolis Autism Center Corp." Minneapolis Autism Center has received $469,000 since then, and the ownership appears to have been transferred multiple times, according to the Secretary of State documents. Back to the daycare, Mahmoud closed it down on January 24th, according to the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. 2 weeks later, she was arrested after booking a flight out of the country.
A new child care center under a very similar name was allowed to reopen on that same spot the very next day.
As noted in the legislature's fraud committee, it's now called Leaders Child Care Center. The new owner picked up the old signage from the playground while we were there and confirmed they're open.
Wow.
And the new owner would not say if he has any affiliation to Fahima Mahmoud. He was operating a daycare in Hopkins that had been closed for almost a year. He then moved the dormant license to the Minneapolis location. In a statement, the State Department of Children, Youth, and Families said that daycare had previous license violations, but that those did not indicate fraud. Julie.
Yeah. But yet we're told all the time, that's not fraud. That's not fraud. There's no fraud here. There's no fraud. I will never understand that shit. I will never understand it, how we as citizens can sit here and just say that everything is all right when we know it's not. I want to see if I can. Damn it. It's probably been a while. Yeah, I'll wait because I don't even know if this is the right one. But I wanted to show that interaction between Brian Curran and the Republicans like Jim Nash and all the other people that were, because I do feel like that was things that people needed to hear. And that's not just a conspiracy theory or something stupid. Trying to see. Yeah, because even when it came to Jim Jordan accused Governor Walz of lying, and then when you look it up, that's actually what the case was. Governor Walz lied. Because the record, like I said, the record is clear that the judge never ordered for the Minnesota Department of Education to resume payments to Feeding Our Future. Ever. MDE resumed payments voluntarily, not by a court order. So I want people to know that. And that's Governor Walz's administration. These are people that Governor Walz put into place. And they think we're stupid because I want to remind people that the same people who worked at MDE who allowed all this fraud to go on, they're over at OCM, Office of Cannabis Management. And that's came out in the legislature. Mark Coran put that out there. And people still don't take that shit serious. They still don't take it serious. And I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Yeah, this one, remember when I was talking about the CEO for, I forget the name of the place, but it's Second Harvest Heartland, right? Our 2 live shows in Minneapolis just helped raise $60,000 for Second Harvest Heartland, a hunger relief organization that works with 1,000 food banks in the area. So if people don't know, these people make buku's cash. This lady almost makes $1 million. She's the chief executive officer. Then you have Elizabeth Cooper. She's the chief external relations officer. She makes over $300,000. There's another one, Megan. She makes $329,000. Then you have Michael Holban, $385,000. Chief operations officer, she makes $364,000. Sarah Waite, she's the chief people officer. She makes $330,000. That's crazy. Look at this. These people all make 6 figures, saying that they're helping the community. I don't get that. I really don't get that. It's like Minnesota really stupid, because I don't understand that. I really don't. Even this, okay, so there was a video that came out where kids were, here it is. So that was a school walkout. So about 75 students out of 1,400 participated in the protests while the majority booed them. And somebody asked the question, how they felt about school walkouts. I said that, to me, I don't agree with it, because who's responsible for the kids then when they walk out of the school, right? Because it's not the school at that point. So who's responsible for the kids? Because I remember in North Minneapolis when they had a walkout and a student died because the school walked out, but he didn't go with them. That was D Hill in Minneapolis. So where does the responsibility lie when kids are able to go to school walkouts and we see people being injured, and actually kids have died. That's why I seen a bill the other day that wanted to kids couldn't have cell phones in school. I would agree with that to a degree. But how are we supposed to know when there's danger at the school if the kids don't have cell phones? Because the school likes to keep shit from people. They like to keep shit from parents. So I would feel more comfortable knowing that my child has at least a communication device if something happens. I don't understand it. And I know kids use their phones all the time for shit that they shouldn't be doing. But when it comes to the safety, I guess that's just one of the things that we got to deal with. I'm going to be honest. That is one of the things that we have to deal with. This tool that I seen this morning that immigration authorities in Minnesota have identified legal observers by name and address, and in some cases showed up at their homes. Now, to me, I think this is fucked up because two wrongs don't make a right. But I believe in treating others like how they treat you. So if you're following them and you're putting in their license plates, numbers, you're protesting at their hotels, and now that they follow you home, now that's an issue. I don't get that shit. There's plenty of other shit in Minneapolis and in Minnesota that is going on, that is happening in communities that just said the other day, Ramsey County was in a police chase and they killed a person. Like, but then people want to get mad because ICE goes through neighborhoods. Well, they wouldn't have to go through neighborhoods if people that they were chasing are trying to arrest in targeted operations get away. And we have people who help them. We have people who help criminals to evade law enforcement because they believe in their eyes. That's the same shit. Those federal agents, when it comes to immigration, are the exact same thing to them as the Nazis in Germany. And that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Because was that secret police, what you call ICE, secret police back when Obama was the president? Because this shit's been here. Nobody has touched none of these laws for years. So we got to be mad at ourselves for not paying attention. We haven't tried to change laws. And then when we do try to change them, we give them the upper hand. We give them the upper hand. Just like what I seen yesterday in that Brady Gigolo list. That to me, everybody says they want transparency. But then when we're actually given the transparency, they want to cover it up. And I don't understand that, and I will never get behind that. It's just like the same thing with the mirror lock. They showed one video to the people, and they actually showed the real version to some community members and family members. So there's people out here that know that the news stations released I won't even say redacted because it was edited. They left out certain parts. Nobody wants to talk about that because y'all allowed them to kill a young man and then change it. And then we have community leaders, Black community leaders, tell us with our own eyes that they were lying, that our eyes were lying to us. And we all know that's crazy. But yet people don't call it out, and I will never understand that. I will never understand that, how it's okay for some people, but it's not okay for all. That's wild. That is wild. I won't understand that. Because even when it comes down to, last year when I seen the ethics committee with Bobby Champion, when they put that out there, and still they allowed this man, he didn't have to pay, shouldn't have to say pay, but there was enough evidence. But because It all comes down to politics. It all comes down to politics. And that's what people don't understand. And I do get frustrated. I'll be the first to say it. I do get frustrated. Because we should expect better. And when we don't, that's on us. I'm going to be real. That's on us. That ain't on nobody else but us. We should have been, even when it came to Jamar Clark, I wasn't around then, had seen the bigger picture. I was still fucked up. I was still a person that was part of the problem. But that needs to change. That needs to change. We need to call out individuals who are doing wrong. But I do want to show you that video tomorrow, that interaction between Jim Nash and Ben Davis and Brian Coran. So hopefully, I assume later they'll come out with the video, but I will show that tomorrow. So until then, until Friday, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good Thursday. Make sure you're watching if you live in Minnesota, that you're watching the Minnesota legislator, or even if you're in a state that is not in session, still write to your legislators, write to your congressmen, because we do need change. So with that being said, I will see y'all Friday. I'll see you tomorrow. And here is Sick and Tired by King Erd. And be back tomorrow. See y'all later.
I'm tired, sick, I'm sick and tired of being sick of being tired. Always baptized in the motherfucking fire. When will we realize we need to build a black empire? Ain't you tired of waking up with their hands around your neck? Ain't you tired of waking up with so much disrespect? Ain't you tired of the bullshit? Always have regrets. Don't you wanna just pull shit and shoot them in the neck? Shoot them in the chest, leave a bloody mess, like what they do to our peoples with no stress, no consequence. Need to leave them drenched in the blood of their savior on Sunday. Repent.